This is Kyle Gass on Tenacious D. You're listening to Without Your Head.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil.
And I'm Mama Creepy.
And we're joined by Jonny Brugh here. And I'm very excited to talk to you. How you doing?
I'm good. Good, thanks. It's a very sunny afternoon in New Zealand, in Auckland, New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I've been writing, and I've been rolling around on the floor with a rubber ball massaging out the ooze in my shoulder and elbow from writing.
Oh.
So yeah, someone needs to perfect the that system where you're talking to your technology and it just writes it out for you.
Yes.
That's been around for years. Why isn't that technology being perfected?
It's still horrible. I won't use it. It's still horrid. It still messes up.
I have it on my phone.
Yeah.
But it does mess up quite frequently.
I can't even get autocorrect to work right on my phone.
Yeah, it's infuriating.
I'm like, really? Is not what I was trying to say. I'm like, it was supposed to be ass.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Yeah. Come on now.
I will not stand for such language.
I actually discovered that if I just let my phone loose, running riot to change all the words that I've written into the words it thinks I'm trying to write, it actually does a good job of describing my subconscious, and the subtext just all comes out in ways I never thought.
So it actually improves the writing.
It's actually kind of a fun game to do, to just sit there and press autocorrect and see, what words end up coming up and like do a paragraph. It's like,
yeah,
that's more interesting than my daily life.
Well, I have noticed because I put the interviews up on YouTube too, just the audio with like a picture, and if you click the closed caption, like it's totally wrong. It'll the subtitles are completely off.
I've got a really stupid question. What does closed caption mean?
I don't know why it's called closed caption. It just means that it's just for people of hard of hearing. It'll like come up with subtitles of what people are saying.
Subtitles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not just for deaf and hard of hearing. Some people like me actually like to have it on because then you can actually read everything that's going on in the movie, and then you learn the lines. Or you don't miss anything. Maybe you just get old. Or maybe you are getting older and harder of hearing. So and just don't want to acknowledge it yet.
Today at dinner,
I'm also a really bad reader. So I'm a really bad reader. So if I try reading subtitles, I don't get to watch any of the movie. I find myself reading really fast, trying to get it done before it changes.
Mm-hmm.
I could never read at school. I was always a slow learner, still a slow learner, terrible at learning lines. And that's why films like Shadows are great, because there were no lines to learn. In fact, everything I said, I feel like I should own.
Actually, speaking of age, I have a question for you, because I look everywhere. You are sneaky like a ninja on the internet. You really are. Because I tried to do background and stuff on our guests, but I could not find your actual age anywhere. I know what your flat looks like.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
A graceful person never asks one's age.
I know.
Never asks someone their age.
I'm not very graceful.
There's no need for it. Yeah, well, grace will get you a long way.
I know. I was just like, it's been driving me nuts. Maybe after we get done talking, you can tell me. But
just look at the picture and go, yeah, he looks 23. Sure, he looks 28 now. Interesting.
When
I was in fact 62 was.
I was gonna say 32, but that's.
I was given the.
That's okay. You can say that.
32. Okay,
extremely accurate.
I was given the senior citizen discount tonight at dinner, which means they thought I looked over at 65. I'm 41. Ouch. I don't think that can't be good.
I'm sending you an AARP card in the mail. Oh God, that's awesome.
I put up on Facebook like, well, you saved some money, you should be happy, but I don't know. I think I'd rather spend the $5 than someone think I'm 30 years older than I am.
Yeah, you get discounts for being an elderly person, don't you? You get free bus after 65 or something, don't you? Something like that.
Yeah. So we were talking about what we do in the shadows, and so that's true that all your lines were ad-libbed.
Yeah. That was the deal. That was how we made the film. Everything was ad-libbed. The purpose of the scene drives the story forward. Every scene has a purpose. Mm-hmm. And before a scene, we talk. This is what the scene's purpose is. We need that moment there to help tell that story. So we play, and then at the end of it, we think, have we done the job that the scene wants? And then we just add a couple of lines or a couple of words, or they just take what we thought was funny, go away, and come back after 6 months of editing to do the scene properly, so that it tells the story properly, so that the story continues.
Wow! So you would
really,
film parts of it. Go on.
Well, there's plenty of scenes where you might say, you just know the scene moves the story forward, but you couldn't maybe pick why, couldn't pick how, as opposed to, hey, the nuclear bomb's going to go off. Quick, let's get there fast. And everyone gets in the car and drives there. You sort of avoid that storytelling as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. So you would film like parts of the movie and then edit it and then film more of it?
Yeah, well, because it pretends to be a documentary. It just needs. You don't need to spell a story out too clearly with a documentary. Then you can cut it together and then look at it and go, what does it need now? And then you go and we shoot pickups months later. Mm-hmm. Do a week of pickups, and those pickups will just be little clips that will close a scene, reveal some information, serve the story.
Mm-hmm. That's wild.
Yeah, I loved the fact that you guys did it that way, and there were just certain scenes like the shaming of Nick, that always cracked me up, and the fact that you just popped off with the whole vampires don't do dishes, just random things like that. Everybody loves that.
Kind of like the. Have you guys seen the short film we made called Some Interviews with Some Vampires? We shot it in 2007.
I have.
So that was where the games of the story were born, because putting dramatic, moody, baroque personalities into a flatting situation is a very simple game of that film, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was.
So you can play that out all day.
Yeah, that was like in 2006, right? You guys did that?
Yeah, 2006. That's right.
Yeah.
So, when you filmed the short, did you guys always plan on making a feature then? Like, how did it go from just being the short you filmed to then deciding to do the feature?
We were all making our own short films back then, and one of us, Taika, got a lot of support in New Zealand New Zealand there's a lot of funding for being an Indigenous filmmaker or being Indigenous artists, and there's good support in New Zealand for people like Taika who then got his short film taken to the States and promoted by a good team of New Zealand artists who are already working in the States. And the profile of being in the Oscars meant that he then met people with a lot of money, and away he went, just making films real fast. And he's leapfrogged and skyrocketed. And so really it was just a case of people throwing money at us to make it, really, because the comic kind of notoriety that we were developing back then was was happening, and but more really in New Zealand, not in America. So suddenly, small amount of money in New Zealand gets thrown at us, and there's actually a choice we made was to just say no to New Zealand money and wait for someone with some real money to turn up and show some faith, which is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then suddenly you're making a good feature. I mean, in New Zealand, someone might. We wouldn't get that film made in New Zealand. We have to go to a much larger market where people have more money and are freer with it and more motivated by the arts. New Zealand is a very small, shallow pond in that regard. Even though we have Peter Jackson and we have in Wellington, we have and in Auckland too, two major film industries.
Some of my favorite movies have been made there. Black Sheep. I love Black Sheep. I love that movie. Yeah. And Weta Workshop is there. We actually just interviewed Luke Hawker, and Weta Workshop is kind of bucket list for me to ever get to work somewhere. Weta is amazing. So
it's quite funny. It's quite funny because us Kiwis look at Weta and go, yeah, whatever. Don't go to Weta. Go to one of the smaller workshops. That there's some great filmmaking workshops out here who do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Main Reactor is pretty amazing.
Oh yeah.
But Weta do a lot of big productions, a lot of American work, and they work all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are the big boys, I guess, in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to joke with a friend of mine and say, how can I get a green card? If we could get married, I could get a green card. Come over there.
Wait a minute, wait. You can't come over here and steal our jobs. I don't think so.
I know, you planning on putting up a wall. Actually, I said, now I might be able to become now I might be able to get refugee status, so I might be able to work it that way.
Yeah, try working it that way. Yeah.
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 So, where did the whole idea come from for what we do in the shadows about a vampire coming together?
Just because we were all doing a lot of character comedy and doing live gigs, like all of the people in that film. Let's say a lot of the people in that film muck around with stand-up comedy, and so that we were all doing live comedy for a long time. And Taika and Jermaine did a couple of vampire characters where they play out all the games, they just kind of tick all the tropes and have some fun with a couple of vampire characters, and then they had the idea to make it into a mockumentary, which all fits perfectly in a way. It's easy to shoot. It's a bit of fun, and so we just made it,
Yeah.
And all of the characters, same characters, we all sort of, as Taika's career started to really take off, we just waited for the right money, and then him and Jermaine wrote a script which for the purpose of convincing people to hand money over, and then it was a case of now we've got that. We know the house is going to look like this because it's in the script. We know that the characters look like this because it's in the script, but we're just not going to show the actors the script. Uh-huh. And most of the time it was because, well, why not? Why don't you just tell me the gags you've got? And they go, because we don't have any good gags in there. The main would go, there's a couple of good gags, but I just think we'd make some better ones up today while we're mucking around. Which is that's usually how it works out too,
Uh-huh.
Workshopping comedy is great. It's great fun.
Yeah. When Ben was set on fire too, Peter was set on fire when his death scene, that was amazing. Like I saw some pictures that Taika had put up yesterday or something from the shoot from when he had gotten lit up and everything. That was crazy. Like,
yeah, so that's a stunt
really cool. I didn't expect to see that
guy.
much. Yeah.
Was it a stunt guy?
I thought it was actually Ben.
He just lit
maybe
him
it
on
was
fire.
Ben.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah, because they did set me on fire too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they probably set Ben on fire.
Yeah, I think they set Ben on fire.
Because I never saw a person on fire in that scene. We were just running over to the door and shouting down the stairs with someone waving an orange light.
Yeah. Well, we'll be talking to Ben too. So I'll find out.
Yeah.
Send you the 411.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
So did you guys pick out like the costuming, or did you have input into that?
Yeah, to a certain degree, because I got to have these meetings with the costume department, who were going on my notes, which was all I had to do was come up with the character I wanted to play, and so I just decided I would be Deacon, the bad boy, and so the costume department said, okay, here's some ideas. What about this and what about that? And I went, yeah, it's great. So they went away and they made a couple of outfits and then bought a whole lot of outfits and then put it together. And then we talked about jewelry. We talked about hairstyles and there was a couple. And so on a day-to-day basis, there would be any number of jackets that we could choose from, and costume would just choose one mostly based on what's the word I'm looking for? When you shoot scenes out of order, I should know this. You shoot scenes out of order, and so you have to make sure you've got the right jacket on that you had last time you shot that bit of the scene. Continuity.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, but there was a dance scene, the erotic dance scene.
Oh, the erotic dance scene.
So that scene was out of the blue, where we knew that day I turned up with a jacket on, and Jermaine would be standing looking at the window, and it would be, hey, so in the scene, Nick floats around outside the window and flies in to say, look, he's a vampire too. And but we should be in the old film we were watching TV, so it seems a bit boring. What else could we do? So we just stood there and thought, what else could we do? Fighting, drinking blood, cleaning, and then it seemed like a great idea that I went, okay, well, this is one of my things I was thinking of maybe doing an erotic dance. And Jermaine goes, yeah, that's really good. And then him and Taika talk for a bit, and then Taika cracks up laughing, and then it's, okay, everyone has to wait. We've got to go away and find some music and an outfit. And so the whole production stopped while we went and I thought, I need to have a fishnet singlet to dance in. And we need some snake charming music, and I'll just go for it. And it didn't, the horror of having to dance like that in front of 50 people really only struck me as, it was striking me as I was looking for the music, going, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. And then once we came back to the set, and they had moved all of the walls backwards to reveal a big open room with a piano. And we just, okay, go to town. And so I just do some erotic dancing, and then I'd sort of get a bit tired and exhausted and look up, and someone would be waving their hands in the air. So, okay, I'll wave my hands in the air. I'd look back over because I'm lost. Okay, someone's fallen on the ground. Usually Taika would sort of get on the ground and help me out by doing a move behind the camera. So I would just do what he does, because the whole point, of course, is don't stop, keep dancing, never stop. Even if you're lost, be lost, but just keep going.
Get lost in the erotic dance.
Yeah. In the end, it was edited, but I think the point was to have a long cut of a long extended erotic dance scene that was uncut. But in the end, you cut it together, it looks good.
Yeah. Did you keep any of the costumes, like the leather pants or the fishnets?
Yeah, well, that stuff's all down at the local costume hire.
Uh-huh.
So I could just go down there and hire it if I want to be Deacon at the convention. But I do have the bison jacket.
Nice.
do have that. The rest of the costumes are all in a museum in New Zealand, in Wellington. They're all at the National Museum.
Very cool.
Because New Zealand is starting to embrace contemporary culture in the museums, and comedy has reached a point over here where where films are films that do well go into the museum quite early. That's pretty cute.
Yeah, definitely. What was the reaction to What We Do in the Shadows in New Zealand?
There isn't the same platform of expression. There isn't the same kind of horror culture in New Zealand that really picks up a film like Shadows and really enjoys it. There don't seem to be any evenings where the film's replayed. In New Zealand, we tend to make films that are very conscious, very politically correct, very serious films about New Zealand culture and about New Zealand issues, and we take filmmaking very seriously. And there's the odd comedy, but generally the comedies don't get enough money because no one wants to fund comedy in New Zealand. They want to fund culturally sensitive productions that inform our audience. It's a government policy that if they're going to fund something, then it has to tick cultural boxes. There needs to be some of the artists need to be Indigenous. There's money for Indigenous filmmakers, which is where Taika's started his career. There needs to be, there's all of these. It's government policy, really. If you want to get funny, you've got to find money elsewhere. So comedians don't really get the funding here that we'd like. So there just doesn't. I'm waffling off track like really badly here, but I just think New Zealanders don't have the. There isn't the. I think everyone just works too hard here. If they go to see films, go see the big American films, and New Zealand films. If they're good, they'll go really well overseas, not in New Zealand. And if I walk around in America, or if I walk around in Australia, people come running over and say hello. But in New Zealand, that doesn't really happen so much. Maybe it's because Kiwis are a little bit fairly quiet in comparison to Australians or Americans, and so we tend not to make a fuss, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I hope I've answered your question. I just went way off track.
No, I'm still completely.
So the response was great. I think a better answer to that question would be that when we had the film awards in New Zealand, we call them moas. Moa is an extinct bird. That says something about. It's a giant extinct ostrich. So that says something about it, So when we had we had an awards ceremony at the year that Shadows was up for Best Film with a number of other films. That's pretty much all the films made in New Zealand. Pretty much filled all the spots for the nominations. You've got all the films there. So they pick one. That's the best film. If you think of the Oscars, they say pick best film. Well, it always goes to very serious, generally underfunded story, very strongly written script that articulates parts of New Zealand culture. And at the moment, there's, we are funded for, sorry, there's a giant moth flying around my room. Moth's flying over there, good.
It's good luck.
Yeah, we take it very seriously, and there's not a lot of chance to be really playful in New Zealand filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And Shadows is utterly playful and whimsical and silly, and I think that's the thing that's just going to get made out in America. So America loves it.
It seems like
Kiwis
something that must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I remember the head of the government funding organisation that funds New Zealand films kind of mocked Shadows for not being valid because it was funded with American money, so it's not welcome at the MOA film the film awards, which we all laughed at, but at the same time, that says something about Kiwis, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think Kiwis, a lot of Kiwi filmmakers here, a lot of people making short form stuff, and a lot of technicians and a lot of comedians working hard and for no pay. You know, you don't get into comedy in this country to make money. You get into it because you've probably got nothing better to do. Some comedians in New Zealand will turn it into a mighty fortune. Rhys Darby and Taika and myself and and Jermaine are all working all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But those guys work in America now.
Well, I saw that you ended up doing a more serious movie, Waro. What made you decide to get into my Kiwi?
Because I needed the work.
Okay. I was like, this is much more serious.
Work. You can't.
You need to eat.
Yeah, you don't. In New Zealand, you don't sit around going, what film can I be in? Yes, let me be in a film that's serious. I want to do more serious stuff. That's not real. People do the work because they work hard to get the audition right, and they want to be paid to be, working. So we'll generally audition for everything that comes up and hope that you get some of it. And very rarely does one get anything. Since Shadows, I've started getting a lot more work in New Zealand, and definitely in Australia too. I started auditioning for Australian films, and Australia has a very rich and playful film industry, really fantastic film industry in Australia, and more money to make stuff, maybe 10 times the amount of work available over there. So Wadu is a great example of what happens at a social, political, or a governmental level in New Zealand for filmmakers, where you have a lot of very strong artists looking for ways to make work, and producers will go to where the money is and say, and just, let's think of a project that will tick these boxes. So they also picked perhaps the darkest element in New Zealand culture, which is we had some pretty bad youth suicide rates in New Zealand. We had some pretty bad domestic violence problems in New Zealand. And a producer decided to make a film that would hit hard at New Zealand culture and teach New Zealand culture a lesson. And the film would also be technically advanced, technically innovative, by being 8 short films all set in that 1 10-minute period during the funeral of a small baby that was killed by a drunk stepfather in a poor town in New Zealand. And it really hits hard at Maoridom, because there are increased figures. It's very there are a lot of Maori in jail. There are a lot of Maori below the breadline, and it's a problem. And it's this film was made to turn around as a mirror to New Zealand, to kind of go, so this is a discussion that needs to be had. And so that film was then the producers found a number of young female Maori writers, young female Maori directors, and developed 8 short films. Taika's partner Chelsea Winstanley Waititi, she made one, and I was in her one. And I played the white broadcaster whose job it is to be provocative and just go for clickbait, just go for insulting storylines for the sake of provoking the readers, provoking numbers. And so that film was really interesting. I cried from start to finish through that. 8 short films, and those short films could go off around the world and be part of short film festivals, and then come together and be part of a film festival. But together, I find that film really beautiful, because each short film had to be one take. It had to be done, shot, the camera starts, and then the camera's turned off at the end. So each film was a kind of a dance of cinematography the cameraman's walking around the room, the actors walk into screen, say their line, walk out again, and it's these 8 shorts, all one take. And what that does is that it means that you have to shoot your short film in one day, which keeps the money short. We didn't have the money to make a short film over 2 weeks. You've got 1 day to shoot it, 1 day rehearsals,
Wow.
1 day to shoot it. So that's a short film being made with some ungodly small sum, which is perhaps $40,000. So that's
Wow.
a very small amount of money to make a feature film, but that's how you do it, So that's some very astute producing right there.
Well, it's a
Thanks for
great
listening,
concept
guys.
of how to do it. Yeah, that's
What's
a great
that?
concept. That's a great concept of how to do a movie like that. It's very original. It's a very original way to do it.
And all of those shorts really go straight to the truth and straight to the heart of what it means for a lot of people living in New Zealand. We're a poor country, man. I mean, Peter Jackson has an industry in New Zealand, Weta and Park Road Post, and there's a lot of money going on down there for a film industry. But outside of Auckland and Wellington, there's a lot of poverty.
Yeah.
And a few artists, including Taika, are talking about it a lot at the moment as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of on a happier subject, not that this isn't very interesting, and actually I'm going to definitely check this out because it does sound really interesting. And I mean, like I said, I have friends that live and work in Wellington. So I talk to them quite often. So it does interest me a lot, things that go on in New Zealand. And it's a beautiful country, and it's a place that I know they've been trying to get me down there for years. Yeah, it's
amazing coming home to New Zealand after spending a month in the States. As I was just over in America for a month, and I visited Mexico City as well. And
I know
you
did
really
Crypticon up in.
Yeah,
I know you did Crypticon up in Minneapolis.
Yeah, so I did those 2 conventions, had a great time, and also spent 2 weeks in LA meeting people and developing contacts over there. But I went to Mexico City, and that was a real eye opener.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was taught some lessons about how to live with very little money. And when I came home, I'm really struck by how much I feel like I live in a tropical Pacific island, a little island down here with expensive food, small houses, without a kind of sense of industry that one finds in America. And really different policies and different shapes of healthcare and different shapes of what's the word I'm looking for? Social welfare, I guess. Anyway, so that really blows my mind. It's going to being in the States, hanging out in Hollywood, in West Hollywood, and then hanging out in big cities like Orlando. The money there is really mind blowing. Disney owns
everything,
neighborhoods, and it's like walking around in the Truman Show. I feel like a light's going to fall on my head out of the sky.
Yep. Yeah. And I know for me, I moved to Louisiana from Chicago this year, and just moving from the north to the south and seeing just the abject poverty in the South, the lack of health care and education and health and, health, whether it's health insurance or just health in general, how people take care of themselves and things like that. It's been completely life-changing and made me grateful for how I've learned, and how to. I don't know. It still is culture shock, to be in a place where I have to ask for a paper bag for my groceries, or they just don't have paper bags. I'm not used to that sort of thing.
You mean?
That's all they have is plastic bags.
Oh, actually, where I live, they outlawed plastic bags. Well, we can't.
Yeah.
We don't have them.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and that's the same thing. I lived in Minneapolis for 20 years, and I lived in Chicago most of my life too. And up there, not only are plastic bags outlawed, styrofoam is outlawed. You can't get either of those. But down here, you say that to somebody down here, they're like, "What do you use then?"
Yeah, and you take your own bags.
Yeah, or even recycling. They're like, "Why would you recycle? That's just a waste of time." I'm like, "Wow, how about we sit down? Come sit next to me. We're gonna have a talk." But it doesn't matter. Yeah,
I had a humorous experience. Because, of course, being at the Crypticon convention, at the conventions, we get the luxury of staying in a nice hotel, and that's a real rarity for us Kiwi artists, or someone like me anyway. And I decided I'd taken some money with me from New Zealand, and I thought I'll just order some breakfast in the morning. I just ordered some breakfast, and it arrived in a paper bag, and it was the bacon was in one plastic container. Hang on. Yeah, so the bacon and eggs on toast arrived in 3 plastic Tupperware containers and plastic knives and forks in a paper bag. And I kind of sat there on my bed going, "What's this?" And "What's my breakfast?" And so I rung the desk and said, "Why did you deliver my breakfast to go?" And they went, "Oh, we thought that would be easier, sir." I went, "Why would it be easier?" Why? And they went, "Well, then you can take it with you." Where would I take my breakfast? Why would I not eat it in my room? I would like it on a plate. Can I have it on a plate? And they went, "Oh, certainly, sir." And it was very funny. It was trying too hard.
We'll be bringing you up.
Really trying.
Yeah, sir, don't worry. We'll bring you up a plate. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. That was pretty cute.
So
I like to read it. It's a rare treat for me to spend a night in a hotel and order room service.
Did you end up getting your plate?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, of course, I'd bring a plate up. Yeah.
Very good.
If you ever go back there, there's a great restaurant you should go to called Hell's Kitchen. And it's not like the Gordon Ramsay Hell's Kitchen. It is a hell motif restaurant. It's an amazing restaurant. I worked there, and all the artwork's done by Ralph Steadman. The food is beyond amazing.
Wow. The
people that work there, some of them jingle while they walk because they have so many piercings. But it doesn't matter. The owner's theme or idea was that it doesn't matter what you look like or anything, as long as you gave the best customer service you could give, that's what counted. So check them out.
They have a nice restaurant.
Awesome place. They also have a 35-foot long Bloody Mary bar. So that's nice. Yeah. And during the holidays, they have snow crab legs for the Bloody Marys too. So
yes, I've heard of stories of Bloody Marys with hamburgers on top as a garnish.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I thought that was crazy.
Hey,
I'm happy to have a hamburger, but I'll have it on a plate.
I've had one
with where it's they have lobster rolls on the you can get a lobster roll on top of the
a lobster roll.
Yeah. Well, I'm on Cape Cod. There's lots of lobsters around here, but
Hey, where's Cape Cod?
Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. We have chairs in New Zealand called Cape Cod chairs, and I've been trying to find one for my flat, and they're a good shape. They're the best shaped chair I can think of for sitting outside in the sun.
Huh. wonder if they're made for. Maybe they're made here. I don't know. No, I've not heard of a Cape Cod chair. Interesting.
Yeah. I have
Usually when I bring. That's very cool. If I ever go buy a Cape Cod chair, I'm going to write my name on it, and hopefully someday it'll come to you. So a check for Nasty Deal written on any chairs.
Every time there's just going to be Nasty Neil chairs all over the world now.
No, when I first saw What We Do in the Shadows was here in the Cape last year. It was in rehab, and I watched What We Do in the Shadows, and it was just an awesome experience. And what now you said you ad-libbed it everything, but whose idea was to make it as a mockumentary, or was it did you just
Tucker and Jermaine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they wrote and directed it. They conceived of how it was going to be and how they wanted to shoot it, how it was going to be made on a daily basis, so that was Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement. Yeah.
Yeah. And are any of the things in it, like you said, you're ad-libbing and stuff, is any of the things based on any real stories from your life? Just either living with people or your life as a vampire?
No, I just think maybe vampires not doing dishes is probably about as close as I can think of. My Deacon is my mother's maiden name. I just took it because I wanted my mother's maiden name to be more prevalent, so I just took that name. And when the film was made, Mum was mortified.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
That is so sweet. Aw. And she was mortified.
Yeah. She goes, well, God's sake, Jenny, why would you use my name? Vampire film. I mean, I thought you'd like it.
But Mom, I was trying to be. This is respect for you. Come on.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of vampire movies?
No, nor am I a fan of horror films.
Right. This interview,
but this film doesn't spend a lot of time going into being a vampire or being a horror film. It's really just a comedy.
I've showed this movie because I can't honestly. I watched it 2 times yesterday. I can't count how many times I've watched it. Swearwolves, not werewolves. I laugh all the time.
Well, I can't tell you anything about werewolves.
Yeah. But I've shown this to so many people, and I have friends that absolutely cannot stand horror movies, and they think I'm absolutely insane. And I do watch other things besides horror movies. I mean, surprising to some people, but it's true. I'll show this movie to them, and they absolutely love it because it is so funny. Yeah, it's absolutely funny, and it's not what they expect at all. They go into it thinking, oh, it's going to be another freaking horror movie that Heather's going to try and make us watch. And then they spend the whole time laughing, and they love it. So, I mean, it works so well across genres. It's really great.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you really quick about Wellington Paranormal. I heard.
So that's a 6-episode TV series with the same actors who played the police cops from Shadows.
Yep.
And they pitched the idea of a documentary following a couple of cops rounds trying to deal with paranormal situations happening in Wellington. So it's basically it's extending the Shadows environment or world to document. It's like the documentary crew when we're sick of vampires. Let's go document the cops because they're not going to bite us. So you can imagine how that might play out. That's pretty much how it's playing out.
And I did see I saw on IMDb that you're on there. Do you know?
No, I'm not. I'm not on there.
You're on IMDb on there.
Oh yeah, I am on IMDb, but I'm not in paranormal. But we'll see how we go next series. It might get funded again to go a second series.
Okay. Yeah, I got excited because that's how I saw it, because it showed Taika and Jermaine, and then it showed you on there, and I was like, oh, well, look at that. So it looks really exciting, and I know it's coming out next year, and I really hope we can end up getting it here in the States too, because I have no doubt you will. Yeah.
Have you got any more questions, guys? I've got a split.
Oh, thank you so much.
Just real quick, because you sent in a question here from Australia, listener Dean Knowles wants to know: are there any rules when you're bat fighting?
No rules.
Very good, very good.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You have just been wonderful, and what a good flatmate to help him move a fridge.
Yeah. My flatmates want to get a bigger fridge, but it's problematic. So it's an ongoing situation. I flat with other creators who live in Auckland. We all flat together. Okay, hey guys, nice work. All the best.
All right.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll be over in the States in the new year, in a few months, I guess. So you guys are based down south, aren't you?
I'm on East Coast.
I am.
I'm not.
He's up north, and I'm in the south, down by New Orleans. So
So if you come and get pick up a Cape Cod chair, I'll see it.
Don't find me a Cape Cod chair. It'll just cause us all a lot of freight issues. Hey, so see if you can get Crypticon to get me over again. Or
Absolutely.
I think Spooky Empire's in April, so be good to visit then as well. See how you go.
I will make some magic. You let me know when you want to come over here, and I will work some magic on some conventions for you.
Spooky Empire is in April, so you can get me over for Spooky Empire in April. I'm not sure if it's in Orlando again. It's somewhere else.
Yeah, I think it's always in Orlando.
Nice work, guys.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I've got to go.
Be in touch. Thank you so much, Johnny. All right.
Have fun.
Okay, bye.
Have fun.
Bye-bye.
Have fun moving furniture. Bye.
Hey, this is Tim Baum from Braindead. You're listening to withoutyourhead.com.